For about 2 years I've been staring at this bit of wall thinking, I really should make a print for this bit of wall. Well, today is the day. Say goodbye to this grey, vacant slab of plaster. And say hello to this. This is a bit of wood. Okay, it's more than a bit of wood. This is a beautiful piece of yew. Look at the grain on this, and look at the colour change from the edge, the live edge, as we get through to the centre of the piece. And this, well, this is what's going to go on my wall. And I'm going to turn this into the most beautiful and epic photo frame you have ever seen. So the last time I made a photo frame, I made it out of this, which is cheap pine from my local DIY superstore. Now that project, that was important to me because, well, that's where I lost my frame building virginity. And as with doing anything for the first time, you make a ton of mistakes, but you also learn lots as well. Now let's be honest, my frame here, it's not perfect. It's made of cheap pine, and I wouldn't exactly say it displays great craftsmanship. And although I am happy with the final product, like when it's up on the wall, I think it looks fantastic, but I think we can do so much better. And the reason I think that, well, obviously we've learnt a bunch of stuff, but it's this, the quality of the wood, the beautiful yew. And not just the quality of the wood, but the character. 1 second. You see, a normal photo frame is, well, it's square, it's clean, it's precise, it's level. But you could argue that it's a bit boring, it's a bit common. You can go and pick them up in IKEA or, well, pretty much any home department store anywhere. They're just, they lack personality. Whereas what I'm planning, well, that's going to be something different. You see, I am going to have a beautiful straight edge classic square center, just like a regular frame. And that is where my print will go. We'll get onto the print later. But I am going to use the live edge of this yew to be the outside of my frame, giving it that natural, characterful, beautiful, one-of-a-kind look that cannot be replicated. That's the plan. Am I going to be able to pull it off? I don't know. There's going to be a lot of gaps, a lot of awkward angles to join up, and I'm not sure. But there's only one way to find out. All right, let's talk about the photograph that's going to go in the frame. Now, this is very much a photography channel. I'm not going to turn this into a woodworking channel anytime soon, but I think that photography offers so much more than just taking a picture. I mean, we know that, right? It allows you to see things you would never normally see, such as sunrises, sunsets. You travel to places that without a camera you're unlikely to ever travel to. You've got in-field craft, exploration, health, fitness, being in the outdoors, being creative, and then of course you've got post-processing and you've got printing, which is the manifestation, is that the right word? The creating something tangible, physical from your work. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking it a little bit further and we're making our own frame. Now I'm making it out of yew with that gnarly live edge, and I think that very much ties into why I'm printing this image. So not only do I think that the colours of this image are going to go very well with the finished wood frame and the fact that I need to inject more warmth into this side of the office. I've mentioned this before, it's like a grey prison cell. Sometimes it feels like that when I'm editing for hours a day, just looking at greyness on this side. So we're going to bring that warmth across. Now, call me pretentious, but actually a big factor in me printing this image is the fact of how it was shot. It was shot on my 501cm film camera, 6x6, medium format or 120 roll film in the field. So it's very analog, very manual. You could argue displays craft, in-field craft. And I feel like because I'm building this gnarly frame with my own hands, and when you shoot film, it feels a bit more like you're, well, doing photography with your own hands, if that makes sense. Even though the tools don't matter, actually, it's being creative that really matters. But there is something about that analog film, it's just nice, right? So if I'm going to build my own frame, the image that goes in the frame, I want to be crafted as well. Does that make sense? I just sound like a pretentious moron, don't I? But anyway, we'll get this print out, have a look at it, and then we'll continue on film. And one thing I would actually like to say is that big printer, big frame. I'm doing that because I've got a big piece of wall and I think it's fun for YouTube videos, but you don't have to go big. Everything I'm doing in today's video can be done with a little desktop printer and a small frame as well. Right, let's have a look at this. Let me tell you, this is satisfying. Like, honestly, just going out and shooting an image in the field and then printing it is one thing, but shooting it on film and then printing it big is another. And then creating your own frame for that piece of work to go in, well, which you haven't done that yet, but yeah, in my head, it's all going to work out. Yeah, this is nice. This is printed on a beautiful textured matte paper, and it's pretty big. It's just shy of 24 inches, so yeah, it's about 23 inches by 23 inches, and we're going to cut a mat to go on there as well. So when all of this is added together, the print and then the mat and then the frame, it's going to be a big piece. So yeah, I can't really procrastinate anymore. I need to get on and make the frame. So a lesson that I learned on my previous frame build is that wood has two sides and you want to pick the best side for the display side. Now already I can see that this side facing me is not a good option. We've got some loose bits of wood that seem to be peeling away here. We've got quite a big crevasse here. It's not very good. So if I flip it over and have a look at this side, it's much better, and actually as I look down on it you can see that the live edge is kind of sloping away, which means as you stand and look at the frame you're gonna see more of the live edge, you know, rather than it was, well, sloping the other way, I suppose. So already this is proving to be more complicated than I thought. When you make a frame out of, like, say, a piece of pine like this, it already comes with a straight edge. So it's very easy to measure and cut to size. Whereas this, well, as you can see, it does not have a straight edge, which is the beauty of it and what I'm going for, but it makes cutting my lengths very tricky. Like, trying to just measure and get So the reason my brain is boggling there is because it's basically impossible to cut a piece of wood that has a consistent width. In other words, you don't know how thick your frame is going to be, or at least how thick it's going to feel. Now, I don't know if anybody noticed, but I got myself a new toy, the table saw, which wouldn't be possible without video sponsors. So a massive thank you to today's sponsor, which is Squarespace. Now, I'm using my new toy to cut out my rabbit. The rabbit is the L-shaped channel you see at the back of frames where your glass and artwork sit. And using a table saw is such an easy way to do this. Now, let me continue talking about the sponsor. So, if you need a website, perhaps for your photography to sell your prints, maybe you want to make frames and sell or showcase your frames, or perhaps you're having an exhibition and you want to advertise that exhibition through your website, well, you can do it all through Squarespace. It's a dead easy, simple drag and drop system where you can build a professional looking website with zero web building experience. You can do everything you would expect of a modern day website, from your own online store, obviously a gallery, you can have your own members area, and there's even AI to help you with your design and copy. Now, if you fancy giving this a go to squarespace.com/Heaton, where you'll get a free trial. And if you like that free trial and it's all working well for you, then you can use the offer code Heaton for 10% off your first purchase. You'll be supporting the channel because it means Squarespace will continue to sponsor my videos. Okay, so there we go. There are 4 rabbits cut. However, they're not perfect, and that's because, well, I think this wood's twisted ever so slightly, just by a few millimeters. It doesn't quite sit. It's got a bit of a seesaw thing going on, and I don't have a planer, so I don't really think I can flatten it. So we'll just have to make do with that, and hopefully it won't cause us any problems, but I'd say the 99% perfect. So as this frame build progresses, the jobs just seem to get more and more satisfying, such as this, cleaning up the dead bark off of the live edge. Now for me, the thing that's going to make this frame build so unique and so special is that live edge. So as I go through the sanding process and getting rid of all the little nubbins and smoothing it off, it just feels, it feels like it's all coming together.
Honestly, one of the best things you can do for your photography is to make it count. Like, do something with the work. Don't let the images sit on a hard drive. Print them, make things, mount them, give them to people as gifts. Create books, create calendars, create anything physical. Seriously, it will elevate your work and your satisfaction to a new level.
So a problem that I knew about in the beginning of this project, I thought I could just, it won't matter. I'm sure I'll get away with it. Well, it's caught up with me, and that is that the boards were slightly twisted or not quite straight or whatever. Anyway, it turns out that a couple of these pieces are thicker than the other couple of pieces. So when you join the perfectly cut 45-degree miters, there's a lip of like a couple of millimeters. I don't have a planer, but if I can shave a couple of mil off a couple of these pieces, then they should line up nicely. And I'm going to try and do that on the table saw. And if this goes wrong, it will be the end of the project.
So I didn't like making this cut, but it's all part of the learning process, and as you can see, it's still not perfect, but it's a lot better. It's the piece on the left hand side that we shaved down. But a bit of sanding, and I think that'll come together nicely. So now it's time to glue the 4 corners together. But I have no special tool to kind of apply pressure to all 4 corners, so I'm just kind of clamping them down to the table and pushing them together. All in all, it's going to make for a very weak joint, especially because this is going to be such a big and heavy frame. So to mitigate those weak joints and stop the frame just falling to pieces whilst hanging on my wall, I'm going to make something which is going to allow me to strengthen those joints whilst adding a little bit of style.
So the glue's dried and you can see the frame is now coming together. But it's a bit rough, I'll be honest with you. It didn't glue together very easily. In fact, it was a flipping nightmare.
Now, until I get those corners strengthened, I have to be extra careful and diligent. Oh, for God's sake. Now, the very act of cutting into and strengthening those corners makes me nervous. I'm terrified that the whole frame is going to explode as soon as I start spinning that blade.
Oh, all right. Oh, it didn't explode. I was so worried about these corners and the strength of the joins that I thought by hacking away half of what's there, which is already weak as anything, there's no way it's gonna stay, but obviously the glue is strong. Well, it's gonna be a lot stronger now. So I've got these are just thin pieces of yew that I cut from some spare that I had, some of the offcuts. 4 millimeters in thickness, and these are going to slide into those grooves that I've just cut. It's called a spline, and it just gives a really good bond and makes for those, when it dries, those corners are going to be super strong, and all my anxieties about this thing falling apart will be gone. All right, that is all 4 splines in, and once that glue is dried, we are going to have ourselves a very strong frame, which we can then work on. And work on it we are going to have to do, because, man, this is going to be the tricky bit, making all the corners match up. We're going to cut these splines out, and on a straight frame, that would be nice and straightforward. You get a flush saw, cut straight, job done. But this, we've got the live edge, it's twisty, it's turny, it's gnarly. I don't know, yeah. It'll look amazing if we can get it done, but at the same time, it could also look terrible. But I'm confident. It's a journey. It's a journey. And at the end of it, we're going to have something quite special, I think. Whether that's special good or special, you know. We'll see. Wait for the glue to dry.
Plan for the splines. First of all, I'm going to incredibly cautiously trim them a little bit smaller, just as you can see here. Move away. Yeah, there we go. Give myself a good inch or so. And then I'm going to go in with my Dremel and slowly start carving away. And to my utter amazement, this just felt so natural. I felt like an artist. I felt like I was carving the wood seamlessly. and beautiful. It was easy to work with. I could control the Dremel. In fact, I was feeling so confident that I decided at the same time as dealing with the splines, I would try to mold and shape the corners. You see, because it's a wonky live edge, the corners on the outside don't match up, as you can see here, and they needed shaping and carving, and the Dremel was the perfect tool for this. I'm so pleased with how this went.
So that went so much better than I thought it was going to be. That's the most worrying job done, and I tell you what, it looks great. It needs some finessing and sanding, but I've shaped the corners, which were all mismatching, obviously, because of the shape of the wood. And I've just, they've just pulled them together nicely. And of course, you can see the grain of the splines, but because it's the same wood, I think that when it gets sanded and finished, it's going to look, although you'll be able to see it, I think it's going to look good, like almost like a decorative piece.
We are now within sight of the finish line of this project, and if you stuck around this far, well done. I'm editing this and I'm getting a bit bored. But if you are enjoying this content, then please give me a subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, then give this video a like. Of course, only if you're enjoying this video. No point in liking it if you're not enjoying it. But then I would question why you're at the 16 minute and 20 second mark. Anyway, we're sanding the frame and it is coming together beautifully. Once it's all smooth and sanded and we've dealt with those corners, which, by the way, great little tip, if you've got any gaps in the wood, use a bit of sawdust from your sander, mix it in with some glue, and then you can push it into those tiny little cracks, sand it in, and then it's a very good filler. And with all of that being done, it's now time to add some finish to the frame. Well, almost time to add finish to the frame. I just need to fix this little thing first.
I've decided to go for a wax. I really like this Brio wax. I've used it on my other frame because it's instant. You don't have to wait for it to dry or cure or anything. But I wanted to try and keep the natural colour of the wood. I quite like it. So this is a warm honey wax. So it's very light in colour and it shouldn't change too much. It might warm up ever so slightly. But we'll see how much of a difference this makes. Hopefully it's going to bring it to life.
I know, I'm as surprised as you are at how well that glass cutting went, and that was my first time, by the way. Now if you're wondering about anything I'm doing here or the tools I'm using, well, I've covered them in many videos previous to this one, so the best thing I'll probably do is create a playlist to those videos, and then you can go and watch them and get much more information than I'm giving in this video. So I will link to that playlist down below. It's the moment of truth. Ladies and gentlemen, does everything fit? And is it all aligned up? God, I'm so terrified. There we go. Perfect. Drop in the mount. And finally, the print. Got a great tip from my last frame building video from a viewer who left a comment saying don't tape all the way around the edge of the print because it needs to breathe. It's wood and it's paper and it expands and contracts with heat and humidity, and that's how you'll get damage to the print over time. So if you've got any good tips, please feel free to leave them in the comments, because honestly that's where I learn most of my things. So I do read them and I do appreciate them. me tell you, this is satisfying. There is nothing better than creating a thing with your own hands, which is probably why we all love photography so much. So take it from me. Don't let your photographs sit on a hard drive. Do something with them. Print them, display them, and be proud of them. And the more you're involved in that process, the better it feels. Thanks for watching, everybody.